Well, with more than 65% of Federation account now going to the states, attention seems to be shifting to the states' governors and the utilization of huge funds now in their control. Organized labor does not think they are doing enough. And to help us take a look at the subsidy gains and the increase in federal allocations to state governors, we'll have with us in the studio a development economist, Dr. Emeka Okengwu. Welcome to Newsnight, and thanks for joining us. Yes, I think I'll just start with that. More monies for state governors. What are these monies going into? Everyone has been talking about it. NLC has come out to say we're not seeing what these monies are translating to. And the president is now saying, look, the governors, you need to sit up. You have more money now. You need to sit up. What are your thoughts?
More money without any plan is no money. So whereas you're talking about more money and a lot of money, it becomes useful only when you have, a plan, a purpose. And that plan must be results and output oriented. Otherwise, so what we actually should be demanding from the states is not to show what they have done with the money, but to show the plan of how they intend to utilize the money. So utilization is very key. Somebody had raised some argument with me, I think last week or so. They said, okay, now let's see what it is they're going to be doing. And I said, okay, take one part of this, what you want to see, and let's be able to drill it down. And he says infrastructure. I say, unfortunately, they're not like milkshake. It's not what you get into a kitchen and then you're handing everybody a glass in the room. There has to be sometimes EIAs, there has to be sometimes designs, engineering designs. There has to be sometimes even the environmental and sustainability plans that has to go with it. And this takes time. So yes, more money, more expectations. And then he talked about agriculture, and then he talked about land. Again, somebody says, okay, get into the land and produce. But unfortunately, he also goes much more beyond that. Because in food production, if you want to do rain-fed, you will need to clear the land, you will need to map the land, you will need to prepare the land. Okay, you need to get your seeds. And, because you're doing rain-fed, these things are season-based. If you're going to be introducing a technology, it might even take, again, the same environmental impact assessment evaluations that I just mentioned. Yes, we expect more from the states, but I would expect also the person who's giving the money not to give it freely, which is the federal government. I think it's time we begin to tie some of this money is being released to states, to output, to very clear output. So it will be for the states to now develop, what I might call plan program of actions that can now be supported by these funds. Otherwise, it will just be what it is.
So we're talking about how to hold them accountable. The Nigeria Labour Congress, they're raising concerns that even basic amenities, even when you talk about paying minimum wage, have been unmet in some states. So then how much more or what more can be done to hold these governors accountable for such lapses? And also putting into the fact that constitutionally they have immunity.
Okay, now remember that we have a third layer now that is quasi-independent, as it were. And this third layer is not getting its funds, or is supposed to be getting its funds directly, which is the local government. And actually the most important segment, not even the state government. Because the land that the president was referring to, including where he lives, is in a local government. All of us live in local government. And now that you're now funding the local governments directly, again, I think some of those demands should be, or that satellite should be placed on them. But I answer your question very directly. How do you rein this in? Remember the story of the IPPS, where every civil servant was getting their salaries directly from source. Nobody needed to pay you. So if we extended the IPPIS to the local governments, there are two things you are going to be doing. First, you make certain that nobody gets what he shouldn't get, and people don't get paid twice. I mean, with only the IPPS when it was introduced, over 60% of ghost workers, were eliminated very easily. Because, you could verify who was getting this money, especially against the introduction of the BVN. Now, let's talk about how you can make the states even more accountable. First, justice is very key. Legal systems are very, very key. Calling out is key. You mentioned the immunity. If the governor has immunity, his commissioners don't have immunity. Okay, the only person who has immunity there is the state government. So if we up our game and the security forces, begin to now not only investigate matters, they start getting, and if you look at the EFCC Act, it actually even allows them to be proactive. Okay, if we begin to train people and make them conscious of their responsibilities, because it's all about you who is signing that check to know that the man you're signing to take the money has the immunity you don't have. So if he has immunity, you can be culpable. And no state governor, I stand to be corrected, signs any state check. What they even do is what they call anticipatory approvals. Okay, so the people who now do it are the commissioners, the permanent secretaries, the directors, the line, and technical staff. Now, that's one. Two, we be the ones who are now taking these contracts. We have this federal government portal where every contract is published, where you can go and look at who's doing what, yes, and what they are doing and what they have done. Now, I also think that such systems can be extended, across board, knowing that what we are running is actually, a federal system that has a lot of synergies and relationships. So for me, reining them in is the easiest we can get. Labor, I could do more. I mean, what they could do is also now begin to be proactive in their pronouncements. And what do I mean by this? Now, nothing stops labor from having a consulting unit where they do needs assessment and, impact assessments. You can have consultants to go and look at those projects and then try to build, some kind of programs that can begin to now also become your position. I would have been more interested if labor was bringing a position paper on capital, human capital development. This is all where their members are. I haven't seen such a deal where labor is saying, okay, in every year, every state should be able to show us the program they have to train staff. That's key. And if you're training staff and you're impacting capacity, trust me, is enough, for people to do the right and the proper things.
So basically what you're saying is that these governments continue to fall short of what they're supposed to do because we don't have that accountability system, more transparency in the way things are done, and to be able to monitor these monies. We've been talking about the subsidy gains. They said subsidy removal was intended to basically direct those or redirect those funds to development projects. But what we've seen, we haven't really seen that materialize. What's the issue? What's the systemic sort of mismanagement that we're seeing?
Rules of engagement and responsibilities, and then bringing the accountability that you're talking about. But accountability has to come in two forms. Accountability vis-a-vis the demands of your office, and accountability vis-a-vis the utilization of public funds. Those are two accountabilities. Okay, and if you're going to be holding me responsible, then you need to equip me materially and intellectually to be able to do so. That's why I say to you that human capital is very, very critical. Now, the rules of engagement is also very key. And like I said, you can have $1 trillion and you don't have a plan for that $1 trillion, the money wouldn't work. The money doesn't talk. You need to have a plan program of action that is demand-based, result-oriented, okay, that cannot be matrixed. Because it's against that matrixing that you're talking about, this transparency that you're talking about. And that's where your public procurement comes into play. Okay, if you don't have a transparent public procurement process, okay, then whatever it is you do would fall to very low standards.
Before I let you go, when this statement was released, where the president was saying, look, the state governors, you have this in your control, food security, development, you need to sit up. Some were saying he's trying to push away attention from himself. What are your thoughts?
Not in the list, because in the first place, like I said, you and I are in the Federal Capital Territory, but we're in AMAC.
Yes. Okay,
so we're living in a local government. You and I know that every land, or 80% or more of the lands in Nigeria, are in the hands of the states or the subnationals. You and I know that everybody who is a Nigerian is living in one local government or the other. Okay, so the state governors have more role to play vis-a-vis when it comes to now engaging people into productive activities. Now, what the federal government does, I mean, with the exclusive list, and a lot of, almost everything the president has mentioned is on the concurrent list. The only thing that is in the exclusive list might be national security, federal police, and all that. When he comes to development, and a lot of, those things, even energy, okay, has been removed from the exclusive list now into, the concurrent list. So the states, for me, are like marketing officers and a manager. Okay, that's how you can be able to equate the relationship where the manager is expected to probably raise $1 billion. Now, he doesn't go to start marketing for that $1 billion. He has marketing officers, they now allocate these targets or whatever they call them. So the failures of the state government ultimately becomes a failure of Mr. President. Yes. And so that's why he says, what I'm going to do is to get those policy positions. Okay, go get those instruments that can be able to help you.
Equip you.
Yeah, yes, assist you, okay? Get those legal frameworks that can make it possible, and where I can, intervene. But the job, truly, is not even in the hands of his state governors, I can tell you. It's in the hands of the local government chairman. Thank you so much, Dr. Emeka Okengwu, development economist, for joining me on Newsnight.